Hi guys, good morning, buongiorno, and welcome to my YouTube channel, and welcome to Sorrento, which is a town in southern Italy, close to Naples, and it's really beautiful, really picturesque, and it is my first day here, so I've had some breakfast. And now I'm on my way to find a place to paint. And one thing I did see on my way here was some beautiful views of Mount Vesuvius, and I think that could make a really powerful painting, an interesting composition. So I'm basically just trying to find my way down to a good spot to paint. So I can now see the blue sea up ahead, and it's a beautiful day. Blue sky, nice and sunny, but it's not too hot. It's, I think, about 20 degrees, which is quite a nice temperature just to walk around in, to paint in. Means I won't be dripping in sweat as I work, and I can also wear a nice long sleeve top, which will protect me from any sunburn, which often happens to me when I paint outdoors. So yeah, just look at this view up ahead. The streets around here are really interesting. Got these sort of cobbled streets, and then these funny little alleyways which take you under buildings, bits of the building built into sort of the mountain, and then sort of trees and foliage climbing down the side of the stone. I mean, some of these little alleyways would make nice paintings in themselves. So now we're going into a little sort of like castle-like cave bit here. And then we get that beautiful view of the blue sea up ahead. We've got the marina over here to my left. Church bells in the background. So I've set up my easel here, and we're looking across the Bay of Naples, and we're looking towards perhaps the most famous, most infamous volcano in the world, Mount Vesuvius, well known for erupting in 79 AD and destroying the city of Pompeii and Herculaneum. I think it makes for quite an interesting composition. You get a nice bit of atmospheric perspective. You've got that sort of haze over the volcano. And then I'm going to pick up some more details in the water in the foreground, and perhaps add some boats to the foreground as well, to add a bit of sort of visual interest in the foreground, which will give the painting more depth. I'm really excited to start painting my first painting on this trip here in Italy, and my first ever painting in the town of Sorrento. I start my painting by toning my canvas with a thin wash of raw umber and alizarin crimson, creating a warm brownish ground to work over, and this helps kill the white of the canvas and gives the whole painting a sense of unity right from the beginning. I sketch in the main shapes of my composition using raw umber paint, and I'm just using simple lines to place the horizon and the silhouette of Mount Vesuvius. I position the horizon about 1/3 from the top of my painting, giving plenty of space for the sea below. And this also means that the mountain rises close to the top edge of my painting, and this emphasizes its scale and its power, as Mount Vesuvius really dominates the scenery in this region. And having this notorious mountain looming over the Bay of Naples in my composition feels quite symbolic of the city itself. It's a place of immense beauty, where wealth and poverty, pleasure and grandeur, chaos and danger all live side by side. There's a constant tension here, a kind of harmony between elegance and chaos. And you can feel the sense of unpredictability in the air, that things could change in a moment, just as Vesuvius has done before. With the composition now laid out, I begin with the sky. Near the horizon, the colour is warmer and has a soft, pale haze to it. I use a colour mix of titanium white, cobalt blue, and a touch of yellow ochre and alizarin crimson. Higher up, the sky gradually cools, so I shift the colour mix towards ultramarine blue and cobalt blue, mixed with titanium white. And I create the bulk of these colour mixes on my palette, and I softly blend them on the canvas using mostly vertical brushstrokes, from that hazy warmth of Naples and below Mount Vesuvius to that clearer blue overhead. Now for Mount Vesuvius itself. I mix two very slightly different colour mixes. I use an ultramarine blue, raw umber, and a touch of alizarin crimson to find a muted violet bluish grey, and this is for the shadow sections of the mountain. And then the sections which are receiving sunlight, I use a similar mix, but I also add a bit of yellow ochre just to warm the colour mix slightly. And even though these colour mixes are slightly different and the bluer mix is very slightly darker, I'm trying to keep the values quite unified, as in order for this to appear far away, there can't be too much of a strong contrast between the shadows and the lights, as you see this strong contrast in areas in the foreground, whereas areas in the background, due to atmospheric perspective, the contrast in tonal value is always much closer. Also, the colour chroma weakens as it gets further in the distance, and also colours become cooler, so typically things far in the distance have a sort of grey-blue hue to them. And you can see as I paint these mountains which are even further away than Vesuvius, that they are lighter in value and also cooler in colour temperature, and the details and contrast and tonal values within this section is much less, and there's a soft gradation from the mountains being lighter closer to the horizon and then getting slightly darker as they get further up. But I'm also keeping the edge where this mountain overlaps with Vesuvius and goes behind it very soft, so it gets lost into the haze of the sky. Next, I paint the distant buildings that line the bay, and to do this I mix a colour mix of titanium white, yellow ochre and cadmium red, and they're just a warm band of light where the land meets the sea. And I do also dab in a few distinct buildings with fine pointed brush, just to pick out a few buildings as they go further up the side of the mountain. I then move down to the sea, which takes up most of the canvas. At the horizon, the water is lighter, and I use a colour mix of cobalt blue, titanium white, and just a very small hint of raw umber to neutralise the blue slightly. And as the water comes closer towards us, the colour deepens and I add more ultramarine blue. And I also touch in some strokes of darker paint to suggest the movement in the ripples. The foreground water has more contrast, darker shadows and small notes of green where the shadows become more transparent and I can see the seabed below. And also some warmer, lighter strokes reflecting the sky and the sunlight. Once I'm satisfied with the sea, I paint in the clouds above Vesuvius. The sections of clouds catching the sunlight, I use a colour mix of titanium white, yellow ochre and a small touch of cadmium red, giving them a warm, creamy tone. And for the shadow areas I use a colour mix of ultramarine blue, cadmium red and some titanium white, which gives a gentle violet hue that contrasts nicely against the warm lights. I blend them at the edges, keeping them soft so they don't distract too much from the mountain below. Finally, I add a small sailing boat in the midground. It gives a sense of scale and life to the scene. The sail catches the light and I paint this with titanium white and a small touch of yellow ochre to create a slightly warm glow to it. And I just add a few figures, some carefully placed brushstrokes to suggest the people on the boat. And with that, I bring the painting to a close, and every brushstroke becomes a memory of the day, the warmth of the sun, the sea breeze, and that timeless view of Vesuvius watching over the bay.
Hey guys, so I hope you enjoyed that video of me painting here in Sorrento of the view of Mount Vesuvius across the Bay of Naples. If you enjoyed that, please do give me a thumbs up. Do subscribe to my YouTube channel, it means a lot to me, and that way you won't miss out on my next painting here in Sorrento in Italy. Take care.